Hello, my name is Adam Hill and I am the CEO of Photon Software. I have over 30 years of experience in the financial arena, working for investment banks and creating accounting software for capital markets in several companies, including 2 startups. Today, I will be presenting Photon Software's Financial Hub with SAP, using SAP HANA and SAP Analytics Cloud. So the problems are that siloed systems tend to generate accounting differences. Finance and risk regulation have contributed to accounting complexity, and creating integrated financial positions with drill down to transaction is complex. However, if you solve these problems, you create a rich data set containing summary balances, detailed balances, and the associated transactions, which allows great scope for analysis and further analysis modules. Capital markets requires more complex accounting than other sectors, and ERP systems are generic and do not have this specialized functionality. Before we go on, you may ask, why am I here? Why am I doing this now? Well, the history is I spent 10 years at NatWest Markets, ending as head of middle office and supporting financial databases and systems. Amongst other problems, there was a problem with the monthly reconciliation of the summary balances to transactions, which was very difficult and took a month. So every month it was done, and every month it took a month and was often inconclusive. I left and moved to OST Business Rules, which was taken over by Microgen and was the designer of the Microgen Accounting Hub, which became the Aptitude Accounting Hub. Microgen made quite a lot of money out of this product and still does. I left to start another company called Legerity with a faster version of an accounting hub, but was only really applied to IFRS 15 and 17. I left Legerity and started Photon, and then along came COVID. And because I couldn't meet anybody and really not do anything, I decided to write the software myself in Python and avoided the faults in design that I had seen in the past. So the solution is a capital markets financial hub, which performs configurable accounting at a transaction level, not just consolidated level, allows a drill down from summary to detailed balances to transactions, provides P&L explain calculations and profitability analysis, and contains a fit-for-purpose capital markets data model. It must be highly configurable and easy to implement. So we're going to step through the architecture from the left to the right, inside the Photon Financial Hub, inside the cloud diagram. And before we reach the data import APIs, the data is passed through a standardization layer. So many systems will provide data, and the data formats and content must be standardized to a, if you like, unique language. The data then strikes the APIs and is passed to the accounting engine, which processes these standardized business events, matching several codes to accounting patterns, and the accounting pattern directs the accounting engine to produce debits and credits. The accounting engine is multi-ledger, multi-currency, multi-GAAP, and it stores the journals in a fast subledger. Templated accounting is provided and a visual front end for control. Drilling down into the accounting engine, so what business events are supported? The answer is transactions, settlements, valuations, positions, P&L explain, and cash flows. Reference data changes or inputs are also treated as events, but obviously not accounted for. So the business events, these events that come in, are translated to journals. That is a journal header with multiple lines. Each business event usually generates 2, 4, 6 or more journal lines, but sometimes 3 or 5 or an odd number. The set of journals will debit this account, credit that account, and so on. Because every company has different methods of accounting, configurability is of key importance. The internal accounting event and the journal lines contain the following fields: a ledger ID, a code block, transaction currency, date, account, debit, credit, and an amount. In addition, there are a large number of other fields for control and extra information purposes. There is a two-stage process and configurable inserts for client processes. So the accounting line mapper that I have talked about already takes the product accounting class, the business event code, business event subcode, and a buy, sell, or positive negative flag, and produces a set of lines with posting code and debit or credit. Then in the second stage, the posting codes are mapped to a GL account code using a highly flexible process, which takes the GL account field plus various other fields, such as banking or trading or hedge non-hedge, plus 10 user fields, and which can be set up as required, if required, and maps to a physical GL account code. There are slots where client processing can be inserted before and after the accounting engine. So these debits and credits journal lines from the accounting engine or manual journals are stored in the subledger and update double entry balances at a detailed and summary level. The detailed balances are kept at the transaction level, and the summary balances are at a user-defined level that is the same as the main GL. The subledger is multi-ledger, multi-entity, multi-currency, multi-gap. It has a flexible code block, which can have up to 20 or more user-defined balance segments, and the balances are stored for today, period to date, year to date, and life to date in transaction base and another currency. Very large currency data can be stored. It's 38 decimals, meaning 20 before the decimal point and 18 after, and there's a spare space for floor space or other data to be stored on a per balance basis. Continuing the subledger, multiple ledgers can be kept to account differently for the same journal. There's FX translation and revaluation processes, configurable period end and year end processes, a configurable period length, and there will be average daily balances, funding, allocation module, and flexible tax rules. Now, in addition to the accounting data, there's a financial data store, a normalized data store suitable for capital markets, which stores transactional data synchronized with the subledger. It also stores all the needed reference data, such as party, should be the counterparty or the internal entity, product, contract, bank account, book, currency, country, and various others. The data stored are transactions, settlements, valuations, positions, and cash flows, curves and rates, prices and costs, and others. Reference data often has a hierarchical structure over the top of it. There are lookup tables to translate the multiple internal codes for things that might be input and which the standardization layer uses. All reference data is audit trailed, and all transactional data has an archive schedule. The database is multiple tenant in case there's a need for it. The data model is expressly designed for capital markets, covers transactions, valuations, settlements, and positions. It has a multi-legged facility to allow for structured products. And in the diagram, you can see the transaction has 2 legs, but it could quite as easily have none, or 1, 4, or 8, or more. By this method, you can model bonds, swaps, FX, repo, options, OTCs, commodities, and almost anything in the financial world. There is a portal for control and display, which you will see using SAP Analytics Cloud. It has a dashboard with charts and graphics and subledger viewing facilities. You can also see transactional and reference data. There are data marts in the hub. So the data marts assemble transactional and ledger data, tying them together. Contains user configurable pre-canned reports for commonly required items and is effectively reporting tool agnostic. It also feeds the GL, warehouses, or other reporting. There are modules, the first of which P&L Explain exists. So the P&L Explain module takes what's called the front office P&L decomposition into the database, takes in fields such as delta, gamma, theta, vega, vanna, volga, and others, It has a few extra spare fields to be input according to client requirement, and it allows you to calculate the front office explained P&L, which when compared and contrasted with the financial P&L will allow you to see what's called the unexplained P&L, which is necessary for the product controllers. There will also be profitability module, so the Photon will contain the cost engine. Costs will be input alongside standard accounting and use the cost engine to allocate them out, and the profitability can then be calculated across various dimensions. There will be an IFRS 9 module, which will contain functionality to calculate and track expected credit loss and loan impairment. So we're now going to go on to the demonstration of the software using SAC and SAP's HANA. In a typical functional architecture running on public or private cloud, you would see the following. So there is static data and front office systems, Murex, Calypso and Summit, front office and back office, feeding data into a standardization layer written in SAP's DataSphere. This will take the data and ensure that it is standardized and of high quality and feeds it to the Photon Financial Hub. The hub calculates the standard summary detail balances and stores the transactions and sends the summary balances onto the SAP ledger. Both the Photon Financial Hub and SAP's ledger feed information via DataSphere into SAP's Analytics Cloud, so the user can see them both integrated, and all three feed into a catalog. We will now have a demonstration of the SAP Analytics Cloud screens running live on an SAP HANA database. So here we have the front door, effectively, of the SAC, showing a number of tabs with little logos which show you what you can do. There's a summary on the top left, down to summary balances in the middle, detail balances, journals, transactions, reference data, accounting rules, and the system log. And let's make it quite clear, this could be elaborated, enhanced, or some of these could be taken away, so the client gets exactly what they want. So let's open this up, the financial summary, and we see, okay, so here are the life-to-date balances which have been based by counterparty. And we see there's the big four, Barclays, or four large financial institutions, Barclays, HSBC, Lloyds, and Nationwide, more or less contributing equally to the profitability. Life-to-date balance by, and this is a P&L balance, by the way, by company, by counterparty, by currency, in a heat map. Green is always good in these heat maps, and red is not so good. So Nationwide is doing very well in GBP, so is HSBC, and Photon Insurance is not doing well at all. There's a total life-to-date balance of 115.79 million, and you will see this turn up in several places. Here we have a little display of the portfolios. So we have the Far East here, Australia in the Far East, and we have London in the middle, and then we have the USA over here. We're showing here the life-to-date, the period-to-date, and the year-to-date balances of P&L. Here again, we have effectively a visual trial balance, and you can see the 115.79 plus and minus, as you should, with some balances and some data about to post in the future, but not yet posted to the ledger. There you can see that the current business date is the 5th of February 2021. So all in all, that looks pretty good, but we need to drill down into this to see what the real position is. So we can see some donut charts of percentages of P&L, P for P&L, by portfolio, London debt, London derivatives and spot, but we could as easily see it by counterparty, product, or any number of other dimensions, which could be increased if the client wanted them. So the life to date is at the top, the year to date in the middle, the period to date, which is month to date effectively, and the daily at the bottom, so you can scroll up and down. So if we look at counterparty, there we see our big four turn up again. And if we look at the products, we see the makeup according to product, FX, swaps, repos, deposits and loans, and various other more minor products. Okay, so all in all, it looks reasonable, but we might want to see the actual numbers. So we go to the summary balances bar chart. And then we see, here's our portfolios. And then we see Australia and Singapore in the Far East, London in the middle, and US derivatives on the right. We could quite as easily see counterparty. So there's our four again, or we can see it by product. And then we see, what have we got? Deposits, FX, loans, repo, swaps, and various other more minor. Now, okay, so that's the position of summary balances. And there's a heat chart. So here we see portfolios versus currency, heat map. London debt's doing very well. Some of the others are doing middling well. There's a piece of insurance doing badly. Okay, and we can see the heat map by party or product. Let's have a look at product. There's all the products that we've traded in. And here we can see repo doing really well, best of all, and so on and so on. So if we come out of that, the position is reasonable, but if you want to drill down even more, we can look at the detailed balances. And here we see the detailed balances, meaning the balance of P&L on every trade. So here we have all the transactions, all the trades with bond. On the left, they've got an instrument type. In the middle, the source system, and on the right, a unique number. This is this is the Photon coding convention, but the client could use whatever they want. It's all for February the 5th, 2021. And here we can see each individual trade, how it's doing, and the total, which fortunately adds up to 115.79 million. But we could quite as easily see our trade heat map by portfolio. So there's our trades. And here's the portfolios, and here we see the good ones, London debt, derivatives, and spot, and the others doing not so well. Or we could see it by counterparty. So there's our big four, and we can see which trades are doing well in Barclays, HSBC, or whatever. Okay, so the detailed balances are interesting. If we want the final level of detail, we can drill down to journals. And here's all the journals in the system. And you can drill down and select them by various dimensions here, which you can set to drill up or drill down as you wish. Here's a journal with two lines, a debit and a credit. And we can see that it has got equal and opposite amounts in trade currency, base currency, and another currency, and the same for all the other journals if we wish to look at them. We can also look at the transactions. This is not looking at the P&L, it is looking at the total consideration on each transaction by book. Or we could look at the total consideration by portfolio, for instance. And then we have the portfolios by the currency, and we can see how well they did. And bearing in mind that any field on the transaction, such as accrued interest or tax or what have you, could be displayed in one of these graphical displays. So that's the transactional and balance data. We can also look at reference data, see how that is doing. what is exactly in the system. So here are our portfolios, and we can see portfolio, currency, party, instrument, and so on, but we could quite as easily add anything else in the database to this. So here are our portfolios, which we've seen. In the middle, you can see there's a number of free fields for the client to use. They can head these, title these as they wish, and add whatever value they choose. And of course, you could amend the display to show them or not. On the right, there are a number of control and reference data fields. So we have whether its data is active or not, when it was inserted, the owner, the source system, the tenant, and the valid to and valid from dates. Also, there is a concept of global processing group, so that if you have a global operation and it goes around as the clock goes round, say building up the picture from New York to London to the Far East, Japan, Singapore, and Australia, and so on, you put each of those in a global processing group, and it builds the data up group by group. There is a fourth group for reference data called ref, and this is, of course, reference data. So we can also see anything in here, but let's look at the parties. So here we have our big four, our counterparties, and we have the internal parties as well, internal or external, and other data that is stored against the parties. We have a look at the products in the system. There's a number of products, from some fairly ordinary ones to some quite unusual ones. So we have collars, condors, equity options of various types, floors, FRAs, gold, some Islamic instruments, interest rate swaps of various types, precious, repo and reverse, swaption, Bermuda swaption, and cross-currency swaps of various types. So illustrating the array of products that the system can handle. Okay, so we looked at the reference data. We'll look at the accounting rules. Now, all the accounting rules are grouped by groups. There's only one group called main. There could be others. Each group has a number of schemas it can access. So we have IFRS and UK GAAP to show that you can do multi-GAAP accounting by accounting for these different schemas. And that is in the code block, of course. We can see the GL accounts. And there's a set of basic GL accounts included with the test data delivered with the system. So you can set up tests to configure or configure it all yourself. Finally, accounting rules. There are many in here, but we will look at the first four lines of the rule for swap revaluation. So swap revaluation, revalue and reverse. It's taking swaps, evaluation. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, post to ledger 1, debit, credit, credit, debit. It takes the close of business mark-to-market valuation from the valuation input. It posts on business day plus 0 or business day plus 1, and it does not use the GL mapper. So these are the actual physical GL account codes. On the other hand, these two use the GL mapper, and they post to this posting code rev unreal reval and AST reval, which are translated to physical GL account codes in the second stage. If we go along to the right, we'll see there's no pre-processing routine. There's a couple of spare fields and the settlement method. So this table defines the accounting lines forming the accounting rules, and of course would be tested very thoroughly before the system went into production. Finally, we'll look at the system log. So bearing in mind that the system was run on an empty database, there's a number of these informational warnings low caution, and there's one serious error. All these low informational ones are all complaining a bit about why is the database empty? Why there are no previous balances? Just a warning to tell you, is this situation okay? However, this is a pretty serious error. There's no accounting for a business event, and the event, here we find it, no accounting for business event, serious error. No accounting line mapper lines were found for a transaction. The journal contains this information. Now, if I position my cursor on here, I can see, but unfortunately it's not in the recorded video, it tells you exactly what is inside. If you hover, it tells you it's a transaction, an FX swap, transactional record, it's a buy, and so on and so on. And using this information, the accountants can then go back and set up the accounting. And all of these errors would be categorized by the business date and the error code. So there we have a quick run through of the system's functionality. And of course, this can be expanded into as many tabs, covering as many things as the client would like. Or of course, all taken away if they don't want so many. So thank you very much for listening and watching this presentation and demonstration of Photon's Financial Hub. Thank you.